Greetings, my scattered sisters and brothers in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that his presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. We're still working with Peter's words to the servants, the slaves, in the congregations that he's writing to, where he told them that they are to treat their masters with respect and with honor, regardless of how their masters treat them. Obviously, if their masters treat them with kindness, yes, you would treat them with honor and respect. But Peter says, even if they're treating you unjustly, that you still need to treat them with honor and respect, and that this is a grace to you. That it's no credit to you if you endure a beating when you've done wrong. But if you endure unjust treatment when you've been doing good, when you've been doing right, that is a grace to you. And he calls them to follow in the steps of Jesus, who was done wrong, and yet Jesus never reviled the people who cursed him. Jesus never threatened those who did him harm, but instead he entrusted himself to God, who judges justly. Jesus never took matters into his own hands. He continued to do right, and he entrusted himself to God. So I have a little bit of an object lesson for us today to try to get at what Peter is exhorting his folks to do. And so I don't know if you can see this real clearly or not, but I think it will become clearer as we go on. And so I think maybe you're starting to get the picture here. Peter is calling for the servants and his congregations that he's writing. He's calling them to trace Jesus no matter how they're treated. Now, I'm not sure how well you could see what I was doing, but maybe this will help a little bit. So you can kind of remember how you learned how to write letters and how you had these dots or dashes with spaces in between so that it might look something like this. And so you would have your dashes, your spaces there. And so then what you do is you learn how to write by simply tracing over the dots and connecting them like so. You get the picture. This is what Peter is calling for the slaves to do. It's what he is going to call for the wives to do. It's what he's going to call for the husbands to do. It's what he's going to call really for everybody to do. That we are to trace Jesus. And the word that he uses for example, it's that very word that has to do with how you learn how to write letters, how you learn how to trace over them, to where you actually learn and can produce the alphabet in your writing. And so Peter is calling for believers, no matter who they are, slaves, wives, husbands, whatever your relationship might be, to trace Jesus in those relationships, especially when you're being done wrong. And so listen to what Peter has to say again. He says, "Servants, be subject to your masters with all respect, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the unjust. For this is a gracious thing, when, mindful of God, one endures sorrows while suffering unjustly. For what credit is it if, when you sin and are beaten for it, you endure? But if, when you do good and suffer for it, you endure, this is a gracious thing in the sight of God. For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you might follow in his steps, leaving you a pattern that you might trace him and follow in his steps. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. When he was reviled, he did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. That is what we are called to do. And no matter where you find yourself scattered today, I know that you're in all sorts of relationships. And I know that at some point in those relationships, somebody's going to do you wrong. Somebody's going to mistreat you. Somebody's not going to speak rightly of you. And the question is going to be there. Am I going to retaliate? Am I going to threaten? Am I going to look for a way to get even, to pay back, to bring vengeance upon them? Or am I going to follow the example that Jesus set for me? Am I going to trace Jesus in the midst of that relationship and entrust myself to the one who judges justly? That's our call, and that's what Jesus gives us grace to do. And so wherever you find yourself today, whatever the relationships are, trace Jesus. And I'm praying, I'm trusting that God will give you and me the very grace to do that. God bless. Have a great day, and trace him well by the grace of God.